The Bike Club podcast is proudly brought to you by Beth Karan and Akshaya Parthasarathi.
The Bike Club podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Welcome to Bike Club, a tech podcast crafted by the girls for the girls, where we aim to elevate, educate, and explore the exciting world of technology.
So tune in and remember, the first rule of Bike Club is to talk about Bike Club. Alrighty, well, shall we kick off?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to this week's episode of Bike Club.
Yay.
We're so excited to have you. I don't even know what number episode this is now.
Season 2, episode 3.
Season 2, episode 3. But then overall...
Oh
does that
yeah,
make it
I've lost
episode
the count on that, which is a
3?
good thing. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. So yes, welcome back. I'm going to be giving the report today, but first I will hand it over to Akshaya for our rule for this week.
Sure. Thanks, Beth. This week's rule, as I was just mentioning to Beth, I thought about while I was in like quite a bit of anger, or it was just like a very angry moment at work that it originated out of. The rule for this episode is stop GPT shaming. And this is because I saw a lot of memes popping up where, you know, they're talking about engineers or developers in the past and developers now, where developers in the past used to be able to code out libraries without any help, or rely on Stack Overflow to write elaborate lines of code. And engineers or developers now, they are like querying GPT for fixing their code or helping them out with an error or asking for help about importing CSV file. And I personally, as an avid GPT user myself, to get through a lot of tasks, both personal and work-wise, I think that's not a problem. I mean, if AI and technology, has existed only to make our lives better. So if GPT is saving me 10 minutes while it writes out certain pieces of code that I do not have to remember, especially libraries that I don't have to remember, or even just, anything, like any task in that has that it has taken away moments of my time and just saved me that time, why should I feel guilty about it? I feel like there's just a lot of negative emotions associated with using GPT specifically for your work, especially in like the tech world, where it's just seen in a very negative sense that you're relying on this for pieces of your code or, just to get you through. And I say, stop that. Stop doing that right now. It's not fun. Stop shaming people.
Yeah.
Again, it's not the technology or the AI that you should be worried about. It's the people who know how to use these. And there are negative use cases of this, which we see very much. And that's like a separate rage rant on its own. But for the people that are just using it to import a CSV file, like me, just, let it be, So stop the GPT shaming, embrace the technology, and let people be. Yeah, that's my rule.
Yeah, I think of it like you wouldn't shame someone for using a calculator for like a complex long division.
Thank
It's
you.
like, yes, they could sit down with a pen and paper and probably do it, but it's like we have the tool, so
Exactly. The tool exists to make your life better, and it's the way forward, Like I think even companies or just organizations that actively encourage the use in order to get the job done, it's a positive sign rather than a negative. Like, why would you expect everybody to remember things off the top of their head when they are using this technology to get you the results faster? Like, I don't see any project in which I was rewarded for writing the best lines of code. I was just rewarded that it got done on time and that it was delivered, the end. So it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there.
Yes, and I think a lot of it as well is knowing what you need to ask. Like, I think if you come in with absolutely no concept of what you're trying to do, it's going to be useless to you, right? Because it's not going to have anything to go off. So it kind of is still
Exactly.
based on what you feed in.
Yeah,
You
prompt
can't...
engineering. A lot of prompt engineering.
Yeah, exactly. which
Yeah.
is like, so again, like a calculator, like you can't just be like, calculator, fix all my problems and it'll know what to do. It's like you have to enter the problem in a way that makes sense, and then you need
Yeah.
to know how to interpret the results. So I think, yeah, I just
Yeah.
wish we could do it with like, I don't know. I really am interested in how we're gonna make it more environmentally sustainable in terms
Of
of
course.
the
The
emissions
the
and
use,
like,
yeah, the usage and the
yeah,
computational
it's
effects.
such a
Yeah.
tricky thing because it is such a big tool now and it's such a good tool.
Yeah, I
But I'm
know.
like, we need to, yeah, I don't know. I
And
want to see if there's companies who are going to start investing time and money into doing it in a way that is offset with somehow. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Maybe that's my startup idea. But
maybe don't give it
except that
away
I
right
don't have a
now.
solution. I just have a problem.
You have a problem and
Um,
you've identified it, which is first step. But that's
that's
a
the
good
first step, right? Yeah.
yeah.
In like 10 years, I'll come up with some genius way to run those queries without
Yes,
burning
for
up the
sure.
environment.
But
Well,
that's
thank
my
you.
rule.
I
Uh,
agree. I think shame is never a good teaching tool, and it's
mm,
never a good development tool. And there's like, just let people be, let people live.
yes. But on that same note, if you do know any friend that's been using GPT as a therapist, maybe well, don't shame them,
Mm,
but
yeah.
do guide them in a way that's like
Give
maybe
some,
there are
give a
real
gentle
professionals
nudge.
for this.
Yes, I think
Oh.
there are use cases where it is not well suited, as much as it might be good at pretending it is.
Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. Before I jump in, actually, I do have one piece of news, personal news.
Ooh.
I finally finished reading both the books that we've recommended in our book club.
Oh my
So,
God.
like, Shaya has been the champion of that, and she recommended both those books. If you haven't seen the Instagram, it was Lessons in Chemistry and Tomorrow and
Tomorrow and
Tomorrow and
tomorrow and
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. Yes.
And I have read both of them now. I've gotten back on my reading kick for this year. I'm trying to read more, trying to spend
Wow.
less time scrolling.
Good job.
Um,
How did
and
you
yeah,
like
I
them?
definitely enjoyed Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow more, but
Mm.
I liked both of them. I think I just
Okay.
preferred the writing style. Um, and I was like more engaged in the story, but I really liked both of them. So thank you for the recommendations.
No, that's
Um,
all good. I realize I
I'll need to
also need to
contribute
jump
some of
back
my
on
own
that.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, alrighty. Well, I have an opening question for you.
Ooh, dramatic.
Um, do you know where the phrase or where the word computer bug comes from?
Computer bug? No.
What is the idea of a bug?
Yeah. No, I don't know actually. No, I don't know why we
Okay,
call it a
great.
bug. Is
I
it a
was
funny
worried that you
story?
would be like, yeah, duh, everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Um, well, hold on to that question and I will answer it later.
Okay, cool.
Um, because it's part of this story. But the person I'm looking at today is Grace Hopper or Rear Admiral
Oh.
Grace Hopper.
Oh my God, this could
Um,
have been a very close call where we did the episode
oh,
on
did you
the
almost do
same
her as well?
person. I was almost going to do it on Grasshopper.
Okay, I keep waiting for
Uh,
that to happen. I'm like, eventually it's gonna
we're
happen.
gonna clash on the
Um,
same woman. Yeah.
yeah. Because they try and keep it a surprise, right? Like we don't want to tell each other, but
Yeah.
then we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
hook up with
yeah.
the same one.
This could have almost been there, but no, we avoided it.
So yes, Admiral Grace Hopper is an amazing lady, and she has a very cool story. So she was born in 1906 in New York City, born Grace Brewster Murray, which I love that her middle name is Brewster. Like
Rooster.
that's so fun. It just makes me think of the owl in Animal Crossing. If anyone's played that, his name
Oh.
is Brewster, and he like makes coffee because he like brews. It's great.
Oh, that makes so much
Um,
sense.
he's an icon. Uh, so she was, as with many of the people we've looked at, she was a very curious child.
Hmm.
Um, at the age of 7, she basically collected up all the alarm clocks in the house and dismantled them,
Why
to
is
try
it
and
always alarm
understand.
clocks?
Yeah, she had a real thing with clocks. I
No,
guess they're
because
like one
remember
of
Radia
those.
did the same thing.
Yeah,
What is up with
yeah,
alarm clocks? Is it like a rite of passage? Are we missing
I
out on something?
guess. I guess it's like a very simple mechanical thing that most people would have. Like, I guess it's just that it's easily accessible.
That's what you want to break apart. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And like not crazy expensive. Like, I don't know. But so her mother found this collection of dismantled alarm clocks and was
Hmm.
like, okay, this is a problem. You can have one alarm clock that you can dismantle and put back together, but I need the rest of them. So she was limited to one. And then, yeah, she has a thing with clocks. So later in life, she was sort of known amongst her colleagues for having a clock that she ran backwards. So it ran counterclockwise.
Okay.
And she kept like in her house. And so her reasoning for this is a quote. She said, "Humans are allergic to change. They love to say, we've always done it this way. And I try to fight that. That's why I have a clock on my wall that runs counterclockwise."
Wow. Rebel the
It's like,
system. Break it.
yeah, to remind her to like think outside the box, I guess, which was just
Uh,
so funny. So anyway, back to her earlier life. She graduated from Vassar College in the States in 1928
hmm
with degrees in mathematics and in physics. She then went to Yale, and earned a master's degree in mathematics from Yale in 1930. And then she completed a PhD in mathematics in 1934.
Mm.
So it's very accomplished at university. She began then teaching mathematics while she was doing her PhD. And yeah, she was an amazing mathematician, asset to the university. Um, then she'd been doing that for a few years when World War II started. And she decided she wanted to be a part of the army. Her father had been a Navy admiral, and she also wanted to fight the Nazis.
Okay.
So more power to her. I'm a big fan of fighting Nazis, both both then and now. And so she joined, well, at first she attempted to join the US Naval Reserve, but
Okay.
she was deemed too old. She was 37 at the time.
I didn't know there was
Um,
a age restriction.
yeah, surprised me too, and also too small. She's a very tiny woman.
Oh.
And so they were like, "You're just too little, we can't have you in the army." But
Okay.
eventually, as the war progressed, their standards became a little looser. And she was able to join the Women's Reserve. So this
Mm.
was a volunteer, but yeah, she was able to join. And they actually, the army assigned her, maybe because she was quite small and also because of her background in mathematics,
hmm
to the Bureau of Ships Computation Project at Harvard University.
Oh, wow.
So this was a computer science project run by the Navy,
Okay.
as because obviously they were seeing the immense benefits that they could have in all kinds of military operations with
Yeah.
a good computer.
Yeah.
And so she was working on the IBM Automatic Sequence Controlled Calculator,
Oh,
better
cool.
known as Harvard Mark One. So this was one of the earliest, first ever electromechanical computers. And so I was listening to, she actually appeared on the Letterman, like David Letterman's talk show, late night talk show, back in like the 80s. Yeah, back in the 80s. So
Oh,
she died in 1992,
okay.
spoilers. But when she was in her early 80s, late
Yeah.
70s, she appeared on the Letterman show, which is just amazing.
Okay.
Um, and Letterman was like, I was watching it on YouTube and he was like, "Oh, so you knew a lot about computers?" And she was like, "No one knew a lot about computers. It was the first one."
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
is just so great. And she's a very sassy lady, so highly recommend going and finding that interview because it's
That's
funny
such
to
a,
watch.
it's like one of those things, once again, like you can't wrap your head around the timelines.
I know. Yeah.
Like it feels so recent, but it's also so back, so far back. So cool.
Yeah. I just love her. She's like, "No, babe. Like, it's she's like, I knew everything there was to know, but it wasn't much."
Yeah. So she
Just so
must have
good.
had to learn things from scratch, considering that her degree was
Yes,
just in mathematics and
absolutely. I
yeah.
mean, as she said, there wasn't that much prior knowledge about computers
Yeah.
other than the people who've been building them. So,
Cool.
um, but back to the Mark One, it was about 51 feet in length,
Mm,
8 feet high, and 2 feet deep. So it's,
classic.
the size of a room,
Yeah.
um, and weighed approximately 4,200 kilos. So, not a personal computer,
Mm.
very much a established computer that took up half a building. So she was chucked in, and she was then tasked with writing the 561-page user manual for the Mark One.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Documentation.
yes, it's OG documentation.
Oh boy.
Um, and we all know that feeling of being, well, at least I do know that feeling of being put on something and told, "You got to learn this and you got to teach other people and you have no idea what you're doing."
Uh,
So found that a bit relatable. And this is when we get to the idea of a computer bug.
hmm
So they were having some malfunctions with the Mark II computer. So this is a bit later. and they pulled apart one of the circuits and they found there was an actual moth that had gotten stuck in one of the
No
circuits.
way.
Yeah. And so she pulled it out and she written down that she had done the process of debugging the computer. And so it was working again. And so that's actually where the term computer bug comes from. It comes from when computers were big enough that you could get a
A
physical
whole
bug stuck in
insect.
there.
Oh my God. That
And
is
Grace
so
Hopper
cool.
coined the phrase bug to describe a problem in a computer and the process of debugging, which is just so funny and excellent.
Wow. I
Um,
love when words actually have like a great
I
history
know, isn't it
of
the
its
best?
foundation as opposed to the terms that we see Gen Alpha use today. And like you just wonder where is it coming from?
It's just nonsense.
But this has such a cool
Yep.
origin story.
I know it's my favorite. It's like one of my favorite computer facts. And there's a logbook that like her logbook from when she was working on the Mark II, and she taped the bug into the book, like as like a scrapbook, and
Wow.
that page is now in the Smithsonian. So it's in the
Oh.
National History Museum in
Yeah.
America because it's such
Wow.
an iconic moment in computer
So
history.
she really knew how good documentation had to be, like how
Yeah,
important it was.
yes, she was
Yeah.
thorough.
Can't
She was like, I'm gonna
relate.
stick this moth in my book. Um, that moth is famous across the world now. Anyway, so that's a fun story about her, what she contributed to the field, but that's certainly not the extent of it. So she then moved on to, after the war, moved on to the Eckert Moulkley, I don't know how to pronounce that, Mauchly Computer Corporation
Mm-hmm.
in 1949, and she contributed to the development of the UNIVAC 1, which was
Okay.
the first commercial electronic computer. So Mark 1 was the first kind of functioning electronic
Yeah.
computer. But she then was working on commercializing the computer, so making it available to businesses and individuals.
Yeah. You know what
Um,
I just realized that
mhm.
basically what Grace is working initially worked on with Mark 1 was kind of a continuation from our previous episode of Ada because Ada's drawings and
Yeah.
everything that theoretically what it was supposed to be what the first computer should have essentially looked like.
Mm. Yes, that's so true. It's like this is a continuation. This is the electrical era of the work that Ada was
Yeah,
doing.
the
Yeah, that's so
practical
true.
implementation of the theories that we just studied.
It's just a chain of women
Yeah,
making computers
one
possible.
after the other. Yeah.
Love that. So she was asked when she was at Univac, oh sorry, no, she wasn't asked. This is when she was at this company and they were developing Univac that she actually developed the first ever compiler.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so she was looking at this computer code, and at the time, the way that it was done is it was zeros and ones,
Yeah.
so just binary language on a
Yeah.
punch card. So they would do the punch cards again, similar to what Ada was doing,
Yeah.
feed it into the computer, and that would tell the computer what operations to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically realized that this wasn't a super accessible way to talk to a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Because people had to memorize all of these, kind of what we were talking about before, had to memorize all of these sequences and patterns and commands in binary and then had to feed them in. And so she was the first person to develop basically a language, a computer language, a
Mm-hmm.
programming language,
Yeah.
which allowed you to put in English words and the computer could then understand it. So that's what a compiler is. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that worked in a bit. And her compiler was called the A0, and that was eventually called the Flowmatic, which is amazing. And then it led to the creation of COBOL, which is the Common Business-Oriented Language. Um, and this was one of the earliest standardized computer languages. And so this was used across a variety of uses, largely business operations, where they had people who would punch in these instructions and they could do calculations
Oh,
without
very
having to
cool.
understand the binary code. So she then attempted to retire. Um,
Attempted.
yeah, in 1966. But the Navy realized they needed her and they needed
Of
her brain, and so
course.
they called her back back to service after less than a year later, to help standardize the Navy's computer languages.
Mm,
She then moved through the ranks the next few years. She was promoted to a captain in 1973, Commodore in 1983, and a rear admiral in 1985. I
amazing.
don't know 100% what those mean, but I'm sure that means something to people who know about Army
Yeah.
stuff. by the time of her retirement, in her actual retirement, second
Yeah.
time round, in 1986, she was the oldest active duty commissioned officer in the US Navy. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so she was in her 80s by then.
Oh my God. I
Um,
can't believe they didn't let the poor woman retire until she was 80.
I know.
What do
She
you
tried to
need?
retire, and they were like, "No, come back. We need you."
Oh.
I mean, she was very passionate. Like, I think she genuinely did
Yeah.
love her work. But
Yeah.
yeah, she worked for the army until she was, yeah, 80 years old, which is pretty
Oh my
amazing.
God.
Um, so some of the honors that she received across her life, the National Medal of Technology in 1991. She posthumously received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016.
Mm.
In 1973, she was named a Distinguished Fellow of the British Computer Society. She was the first woman ever to do that. And she was also the first woman to hold a PhD in mathematics
Oh,
at Yale. So, and then, yes, she passed away on 1st of January 1999 and was buried in a full military ceremony in Arlington, Virginia.
okay.
Um, so that is the life of Grace Hopper. Um, and I had a quote from her as she kind of reflected back on her career. She said, "The most important thing I've accomplished, other than building the compiler, is training young people. They
Oh.
come to me, and say, 'Do you think we can do this?' And I say, 'Try it.' And I back them up. They need that. I keep track of them as they get older and I stir them up at intervals so they don't forget to take chances."
Oh, the OG mentor.
I know. So she was really passionate about mentoring, and I just love that she
Yeah.
said that's the most important thing that she did, other than building the compiler. Like she knows that that was really important, but
Yeah.
she's like, the next most important thing I did was
Passing it
mentor young
on. Eh?
people.
Exactly. Makes sense. Wow, that's so cool. The only reason I mean, Grace Hopper is such a relevant and very familiar name to me is because there's a convention that happens in the US every year where women in tech get invited to attend this convention. And I think it's like this massive networking slash educative
Oh, right.
learning experience. Yeah, it's called the Grace Hopper Convention. You get like specifically invited to go to this, and it's so
Oh,
fascinating. Like it's one of the things that is definitely on like my wish list.
that's so cool. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, but that's where
I'm
like the
Googling it
name
now.
is just so familiar for me. But now it's good to know like who
Yeah.
the woman is behind that.
Oh, I see. Grace Hopper celebration.
Yeah. It's
Very
like a
nice.
nice little get together of every like yeah, women in computing.
Yeah, we can put that on our goals for um
Yeah,
to
vision
one day
board.
be invited.
Vision board 2026.
Vision board, yes. Well, thank you for letting me know about that. I will also add it to my life goals.
Yeah, no worries. Oh,
So yeah, that's all I had on her sort of life, but I did want to talk a little bit more about the compiler in our next section, I guess.
yes, okay.
I don't have heaps to talk about with the compiler, but I did want to just commit a little section to it.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of quotes, so I feel like I always do this. I like having a lot of quotes from
Yeah.
the people that I'm talking about, just because I think they express it best in their own words.
Onwards. Yeah. No, that's nice.
Cool. All right. So, some information about the compiler. I have a few quotes from her about the process of creating it.
Okay.
And so the first one is talking about when she was asked to make one.
Mm.
She said, "When I was a professor, I found there were a certain number of students who could not learn mathematics. I then was charged with the job of making it easy for businessmen to use our computers." And this is my favorite part. "I found it was not a question of whether they could learn mathematics, but whether they would."
If he
They
wants
said,
to, he will.
yeah, yeah. They said, "Throw those symbols out. I do not know what they mean. I do not have time to learn symbols."
Yeah, yeah. Sounds a lot like businessmen today as well.
Yeah, like get those numbers out of there. "I suggest a reply to those who would like data processing people to use mathematical symbols, that they first attempt to teach those symbols to vice presidents or colonels or admirals. I assure you that I have tried it." So to people who are like, "We don't need a compiling language, like they can just learn the process." She's like,
Yeah.
I've
I've
tried,
done
man.
it.
Like
Yeah. You don't
they
want
don't
to
want to
walk
learn
down the
it,
same road.
which is just so relatable and
Oh,
so funny. Yes, if he wanted to, he would, but he did not.
yeah.
Um, So yes, she developed this language called Flowmatic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this was a way that people could interact with the computer. And it's basically a translator. So it's basically imagine you are trying to talk to someone who only understands a different language. So you talk to someone who understands both languages, and then they go and talk to the other person. And so it's basically that's what the language is doing, is that stored within the compiler is a translation of if you say the word add, then that means I need to call these binary operations. Or if you use the word subtract, or if you use the word sum, or if you use whatever word you want to use,
Mm-hmm.
that is within the language. And so you only had to learn the syntax of the language. And this seems very like
Simple.
intuitive and
Yeah.
basic because this is how all modern programming is done, pretty much. Like, I
Yes.
don't know anyone who would write their programs in binary, let alone like, you know, even more fundamental coding languages.
Mm-hmm.
Most people write in high-level coding languages like Python or Java or,
Yeah. And that's
any
what
C
modern
or
day
anything.
coding languages even aim to be, like more and more
Mm,
um human language friendly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the two big breakthroughs that she made with Flemmatic were, as we've been talking about, the English style syntax
Mm-hmm.
of, kind of sounds like how you would talk to a person.
Yeah.
And then also the separation of the data and the procedure. So previously, when everything was written just kind of in numerical values, it was all, I guess, bundled together. But with this language, you had objects, so like a piece of data, a piece of information, and then you had your operators where it would tell you what to do to that piece of information. Which, again, this seems very intuitive to us because we're used to working on computers. Like, we're used
Mm-hmm.
to, even at the front level, we're used to having a storage system, and I go and access that file, and then I tell this file to do this thing. But before that, it was not that delineated. And so she separated her code logic into objects and commands. And
Mm.
again, that's very fundamental to how we do coding now. It's one of the first things you learn when you do it. Like I did a Java 101
Yeah.
at uni, and it's like the first concept that you learn is like you have your object and then you have your operator. So
Yes.
that was the other big breakthrough that she made, which is what enabled it to be repeatable and extendable and enabled other languages to be built on top of it. So another quote, sorry, I've got so many quotes. I just love hearing about people's own words about their work. She said, nobody believed that I had a compiler running and nobody could touch it. And this kind of calls back to her having a clock running backwards thing,
Mm-hmm.
in that she is very aware that people are scared of change. They told me computers could only do arithmetic, they could not do programs. It was a selling job to get people to try it. I think with any new idea, because people are allergic to change, you have to get out and sell the idea. And so she was kind of coming up against issues that I think people still come up against
Mm.
when building new technologies or trying to innovate something, is that people don't want to take it up because they're like, well, we've always done it this way, so why would we
Do it
do
any
a
other
new
way.
thing?
Yeah.
Yep. And so it took a bit of a push, which is wild. Again, looking back and going, this is how pretty much all computing works now. And it
Exactly.
seems so
Yeah.
intuitive. Like, why wouldn't you? Why
Want
wouldn't
it
you want
this
to do
way.
that?
I know, yeah.
But it was like, oh no, like computers work with numbers. You can't possibly extend it. Um, and I think this is also just like this thing that keeps coming up as we talk about this women in tech, this drive to make it more accessible and more
Yeah.
usable.
Yeah.
And as much as it was something that was asked of her, it was also something that she was very passionate about and interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of her initial idea for the compiler was totally hers. Um, and then once people were kind of on board, she was asked to make it more business friendly,
Yeah.
and develop it to be more and more usable. But yeah, just the fact that she had this drive to make it accessible and usable and that you didn't have to learn all the codes and the binary and the commands in order to program a computer. Like I think it's so funny that it's like in that quote she says, people told me that computers couldn't do programs, which now it's like
That's
that's the only
exactly
thing
what it
computers
does.
do. Everything is a program.
Yeah.
So yeah, very cool and very in line with kind of what we've been hearing about with all
Yeah.
these women in tech is there's this drive towards accessibility and usability and um, broadening the usage of technology to new
Hmm.
people, which I think is really amazing.
Hmm.
So that's all I have on the compiler because, as I said, it's a fairly simple concept,
It is, yeah.
but very fundamental.
Yeah. I had
Um,
a uni undergrad course on the theory of compilers, where we did have to understand like the mathematical works behind it and then
Mm.
also attempt to create our own. A subject which I did not really enjoy as much because, as I think mine is the reverse of the problem of why would
Mm.
I want to learn something like how
Yes, if
it
there's already a
worked
compiler that
if it's
can,
already, yeah, if it's
yeah,
already out there. Like at that point everybody was learning Python, which made sense. And like
yeah,
Python is so, when it
very
came
English
out,
language friendly.
yeah, and like
Yeah,
it doesn't care about semicolons. It does not care about like half the things that even Java cares about, right?
yeah.
So at that time, when they were teaching us compilers, it was like, why? It was just such an essential question. Like, why do I need to know? But,
Like we've already made
understanding
this
this,
leap. Yeah,
yeah. But understanding Grace's journey, I think, would have played a very pivotal role, at least in the curiosity of things. Like most things,
yeah,
as you get older, you only appreciate them. Yeah.
yes. I'm surprised that they didn't talk about her in the course.
In
I mean,
in
maybe I'm
the
not that
yeah.
surprised, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why this podcast is in place.
That's true. That's our job. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Um, because we keep finding these things that were made by women.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wonderful. Thanks,
Um,
Beth. That was a really quick and short and really informative episode on yet another amazing woman.
yeah, no worries. She gave a lot of public talks towards the end of her life that are available on YouTube. So I'll link some of those as well, where she
Mm-hmm.
talks about her thoughts on the future of technology and kind of where
Mm.
technology's been and where it's going. And um, yeah, she's just this really passionate, really intelligent lady, and very sassy as well. She's very fun to listen to. She's just like a funny person.
Okay.
Um,
I'd love
she's
to
got a great sense
see
of
the
humor.
Letterman
So
episode as well.
yeah, I'll link that one as well. Um, so yes, highly recommend. Go have a listen.
Okay. Very cool.
Yes, I think that's all I have for
Amazing.
this episode.
Cool. We'll catch you in the next one. I'm very excited for this one because I only discovered this story and I was kind of inspired by your Ada Lovelace story to
Oh,
really dig
nice.
deep into history and find something dramatic. So there's a
Was
lot
it
of
even older one?
topics. Yeah, it's older than Lovelace. I don't know if that
Oh,
gives it away.
wow.
Yeah, no.
Okay, older
Yeah,
than
so
the first algorithms.
yeah, I don't know. If people want to take a guess, drop like a comment, whichever
Yes.
platform you're listening this on. Who is the female inventor or woman in STEM that we could be talking about that's even older than Lovelace? And if you guess it right, then I mean, congratulations. You know your history.
Well, I clearly don't. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah. But we'll see you
But
guys in the next episode.
amazing. Can't wait.
Bye.
Bye.